Hey guys, my name is Sushrita. My pronouns are she and her. Vikrant, over to you.
So, guys, I'm Vikrant Utekar, and my pronouns are he and him. So today is a very special occasion for us. So since it's Pride Month, we actually, decided to have an honest conversation from our friends in the LGBTQIA community. So before we get started on the fun stuff, let's just get the introductions out of the way. So guys, like, feel free to introduce yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, Ankit, go ahead.
Hi folks, Namaste. My name is Ankit Bhuktani. My pronouns are he and him. I'm an LGBT right activist, founder of Queer Hindu Alliance, and working in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion within education, workplace, and faith. Pleasure to have you here.
I
Hey,
this is Umang Sheth over here. I'm the founder of Gay Bombay. Also, I founded the Hugging Club of India. It's an initiative to remove stigma around mental illness. And just recently, 3 months back, I founded Mr. and Mr. It's a healthier way to find a life partner for the gay community. Thank you.
So guys, like, awesome that you guys are here, and we like love the initiatives that you're taking towards helping the LGBTQIA community in general. So I'm gonna start off with a very simple question that I ask everyone that comes here, comes to the AMP. Okay. So during the lockdown and everything, like, people have been stuck at home, getting bored, driving themselves up the walls with insanity and everything. So I like to call something like an activity that one has to do to keep sane. I like to call it my fortress of solitude. In my case, it's my writing. In Sushita's case, it's her art. So, what for you is your fortress of solitude during this pandemic?
Well, if I talk
Ankit,
about me, I feel that meditation and some sort of spiritual practices, along with talking to new people, connecting to new people, and sharing how LGBTQIA lives have improved past decades, and how we are gonna change the world together and make it more inclusive is something gives me hope on every day.
Coming to me,
That's
the
nice.
lockdown has hit hard to a lot of people. So in the last 18 to 20 months, the people at Hugging Club, the number of people have really gone up. The number of calls have gone up. So it's been busy talking to them, arranging events. Plus, Ankit also said I've started meditation regularly and reading a lot of stuff on self-help has helping me. And I also did a course on Buddhist applied Buddhist psychology, which has really helped me to be calm and patient and reflect. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Okay.
That's absolutely great. That's brilliant. I wish I could meditate though. I'm getting
Yeah, you
there
can sit
somewhere.
still for like 2 seconds.
You were saying, Vikrant?
Okay, so let's talk about, like, let's talk about some fun stuff. So, like, we've all heard those stereotypes about the LGBTQIA community and stuff like that. I've had guys, like, I've met guys who believe in those myths and your stereotypes. So what is the most ridiculous stereotype you've heard?
Okay. Ankit, go ahead.
Well, there are so many, but the first one which I ever came across, and I think many within the queer community will come across, is that, oh, so if you're gay, then you have to be within the fashion industry or in makeup, doing makeup or artistic way, you need to earn your livelihood. So that is something which I have come across a lot. When I was in a relationship, many times people used to ask me, so who is a husband and who is wife? I think again, it's very typical that queer couples get asked this question. And third one would be, uh, okay, so what happens when one of you is really sick and somebody need to take care? Who is gonna do the role within the gender stereotype? What I mean by is that, okay, so while filing the papers and doing the documentation in the legal process, which are generally designed in a gender specific way, whether it's a loan or hospital taking care and things like that, who is going to do what. So third one, keeping apart, I think the first two are the typical one which I have come across a lot. Oman, how about you?
I think the biggest stereotype about gay is that uh, initially when I was growing up, people really called me names, but over a period of time, I don't happen, people started telling me you don't look gay, you know. So the stereotype is you need to be effeminate and loud, you know, and if you are not, then you are not gay. So the stereotype is which unfortunately the media has also put that you need to be loud, flamboyant, and clapping, you know, which is not everybody, you know. So that is one of the biggest stereotypes. Other stereotype I feel is gay people are considered, as he said, always very creative. You know, you can't be in an industry where somebody is a, I don't know, mechanical engineer, you know, or somebody is into fire in the military, you know. So they think gay men can't do something which is very manly, you know. So yeah, so that's the stereotype I have come across, you know.
Yeah, I
There
mean,
are
I completely get that. Yeah.
No, like for instance, so I when I write, like I've always wanted to, write a character which is like, gay, or falling under the LGBTQIA community, but I've always avoided that because for one, I've never had friends in general, and more so friends from the community themselves. So I don't know, so I didn't want to, because I draw my characters from experience. So I didn't want to them to turn off like something which is caricaturish, because we've done that over a long time. Those stereotypes are there for a reason, because they were perpetuated that way. And I, for one, would like to avoid doing that in my writing. Like if I ever decide that and I am definitely going to write one day about a character from your community, and I would definitely like it to be more real than a caricature of what it is supposed to be.
So basically,
Yeah,
Vikrant is using this as research.
Yeah, this is
no, I
research.
think it has started in Bollywood. I think there was this movie about the guy from Pakistan. What is his actor? He behaved in a very unconventionally gay character. You know, Fahad Khan in that movie. You know,
Yes,
so
yes.
Kapoor's and Sons.
Yes.
Kapoor
yeah,
and Sons.
Kapoor
Kapoor and
and
Sons.
yeah, that was I think it was very well done. You know, that was nothing over the top, nothing loud. You know, so I think times are changing. You know, in recent
No,
time also,
even
I
if you
think,
look at like web series like Made in Heaven, they've talked about homosexuality in a very real way rather than making it a caricature of what it is supposed to be.
What
So we are
also
like
is changing here, I feel, is the more and more people coming out, then you are able to relate with, as you rightly pointed out, that you're not able to write because you do not know any queer person in real, right? So all you can get is the typical stereotype Bollywood presentation of queer community, which has been in a particular way for a reason. That is, that gives you laughter, it brings audience to your theater, and so on and so forth. When me as an individual, Umang as an individual, and so many like us come out, who do not happen to act in a certain way, and yet we claim our identity as queer, we become the connecting dots between the society and queer community. And that is when you would be able to understand, hey, okay, somebody who is over the top, flamboyant is queer, which is a beautiful part of a queer community. At the same time, somebody like me and Umang are also equally important part of the queer community who are not like that. And a queerness comes in a diverse spectrum, So I think because more and more people are coming out, people are seeing more and more people who are different and queer, that reflection of that real society is getting into the storytelling forms, whether it's in web series, movies, writings, in media, and so on and so forth.
that he's right. Yeah. Even the latest
no,
series,
we've definitely come a long way since Dostana.
Yeah. Dostana was a different thing. He wanted to make a commercial film. He also had to make money, So he did his own way. See, there are rights and wrong, but he cannot make a documentary, it has to be a commercial. There has to be some kind of, drama, some kind of controversy. So there are pros and cons to that, but at least it got people talking, Of course,
That's
what he
true.
showed may not be politically right, but it created a buzzword. It was a big mainstream people where two guys are acting as a gay couple, which is a big milestone, Politically, it may be right or wrong. That's a different story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just, so that's the whole thing. It's whenever there is some sort of newness or whenever there is some sort of change that is being brought out into the world, especially when it comes to being one with your own identity, getting to truly understand and explore who you are as a person, what's your sexuality and all of that, it comes as a shock to an entire culture or generation of people who have never witnessed something like this before. And it is people like you, Umang, and you, Ankit, that are correctly, like Ankit said, you're bridging the gap between people who know nothing and the people who are part of the community. And, you're creating that fascinating bridge where people are given the opportunity to explore in a safe way who they identify themselves as, and people who don't know also get that opportunity, to know, understand what's going on, what are these different concepts, why are pronouns so important, why do people like to be referred to in a certain way, and just because you belong to the community, that doesn't make you any different from any other person on this planet. Absolutely not.
Maybe we are a little
So,
bit
like,
more fabulous than you.
Yes, you are definitely are. Yeah. No, so let's talk about like we've talked about the perception in India in general, but when we go out into the world as well, like the past 5 years, past half a decade, when we talk about even in the US, like them getting a president such as Donald Trump and his opinions about the community, about him trying to ban trans people from the military, to the whole issue with trans females, trans girls not getting, which is very recent, where trans girls were barred from participating in women's sports because they deemed it unfair for biological females. So what do you think about when you see the news and when you see something like that goes on in something in somewhere another part of the world, and does that enforce your belief that what you're doing over here is right, and what you're trying to achieve through your initiatives is much more justified when you see something like that happening in the world?
So the thing is, it reaffirms the fact that legally we may be fine, legally we may not be criminals, but socially, lot of work is to be done, lots and lots of work to be done. There are highly educated people who are doing very well for themselves are getting married, because there is still marriage pressure, still taboo, still the fear of loneliness if I don't find anybody, ridicule. So just imagine if we think that people abroad are open-minded and yet they are facing such kind of discrimination, there is lot of work to be done, socially. And that's one of the reasons gay marriages should be accepted and legalized. It will bring a lot of change. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, who is anybody to stop two people from being with each other? Like, seriously, like, two people want to be with each other. It's their choice. It's their decision. It is them leading their lives. How the heck does it bother you? I mean, forget that they're male, female, or anything else. They're two people choosing to live together for the rest of their lives. It's as simple as that. Why is it that we, cisgendered people perhaps, do not allow acceptance of these things? So what do you guys think would be, the gaps in acceptance of couples from the LGBTQIA plus community?
Okay, let me answer that, Ankit, because this is something I had a strong opinion and then I had a different opinion. So growing up gay, when people would call me names, Chakka, Baila, or they would feel this is wrong, this is you are important, or this is against the nature. I used to get very angry. I used to shout, yell, back answer, and get angry. But honestly, after my course in applied Buddhist psychology, I realized that, see, they have grown up with certain mindset. See, those people, what their opinion about gay being effeminate or eunuch or whatever is because that's what they saw in the society, by their peer group, by their parents. So their perception of what gay is a lot of to be blamed by the society, by their peers. So if I look at them, what his opinion is, it is not his opinion, it is about his environment he's been brought up. So I don't have to get angry at him. See, there are two very specific things. That person is suppose somebody comes and tells me, Umang, you are important. For example, you are gay, you are important. Now, I have a choice. I have a choice to say, oh, he's calling me important, blah, 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 and back it up. He's calling a gay person important. His perception of gay is important. He's not calling me important. And if I could sit back and try to change his perception, that would be good. Because he's not attacking Umang. He's defining what is his perception of gay. So that clarity I've got over a period of time.
And that's something that reflects in Umang's ads, So when Umang does ads for the Hugging Club of India, he makes these perspectives very clearly known, wherein one is the stereotypical perspective towards things which is seemingly unhealthy, and it is very impulse oriented, it's very oriented. And then on the other end, you have like this relatively suljha hua way of looking at things, and that's something that I've really liked about the way Umang presents information out to the public, so that it's like, it's not too complicated. It's pretty, simple to understand how we choose to perceive things and perceive people and perceive their gender identity and sexuality. So thank you so much for doing that, Umang.
Thanks for mentioning that. Thanks. That encourages me to write more. Over to you, Ankit.
I'm glad.
Yes, so I personally feel that homophobia of India is a homophobia of ignorance and not a homophobia of hate. The reason I say it is a homophobia of ignorance is that people do not know about this. Even today, if you cross the boundaries of metro cities of Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, if you cross the boundaries of English language, if you cross the boundaries of privileged primetime TV debates, if you cross the boundaries of upper class literature festivals and conversations like this, there is a whole lot of Bharat which resides, which yet do not even know that there can be a man who identify himself as men, that means is cisgender, interested in men, not just physically, but emotionally as well. That this person looks for another man as companion. Let me talk very personal. 10 to 12 years ago, if you come to my home and if you ask my mother about gender, she will say only three things. There is something called as male, there is something called as female, and there is something else which is a person who comes on our door every Friday or Saturday, claps and asks for one. Well, today she knows that there is something called as gay, which is not gender but orientation. That means this person is biologically male, cisgender, identify himself as male, and loves another man, right? So that's the journey and growth which she undertook with my help, and we went on the journey together. When Honorable Supreme Court of India in 2013 gave its negative judgment on 377, which then they recriminalized us after Delhi High Court decriminalized us in 2009, sorry. I traveled across the country, particularly in 5 states: Gujarat, Rajasthan, UP, Bihar, some parts of Delhi NCR. And I did around 500 public talks. in tier 2 cities, in villages, in any public place like vegetable markets, outside school or colleges, in ST bus, in local trains, in long distance trains. Just like a person comes to you and sells things in a market or in train, 10 rupees ki do pen, 10 rupees ki do pen. The same way, I had a first page of constitution in my hand, which talks about what does the first page of constitution teaches us. We all have studied for 10, 12 years in each textbook. The first page or second page was like that, right? It gives you, it talks about the values. Which are the values of Indian constitution? Justice, equality, life of dignity. These are the values. And I said, these are the values talked about in the constitution. And the institution which was supposed to protect my constitutional right, that's the Honorable Supreme Court of India, has failed to recognize my rights. And I'll do this in Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, in Braj Bhasha, so that people who are listening to me can connect with me. And after giving this all this talk, I'll end my talk with a simple question. And that is, do you think that I deserve to go to jail for 10 years to life imprisonment just because the person whom I happen to love happens to be of the same gender? And I saw the change happening on ground in front of my eyes. So I personally feel that homophobia of India is not a homophobia of hate, but it is homophobia of ignorance. If we are able to give the right information in the language they understand, in a way they understand, I think we would be able to connect more and more people with the message of equality.
No, yeah, obviously, because when we talk about gay rights, basically what it is what you right to love who you want. Obviously, yes. And once people understand that, it's a completely different ball game. So so let's talk a little bit about that, the L word, the love. Okay. So like everyone has a different definition of it. So let's talk about it. What is your definition of love?
Well, love is something where you look at the person, you get, of course, the first thing is you get attracted by physical look. That is very, very natural. But over a period of you come to know that there are more things to that person. See, my easy definition of love is that the person is in total, you know. So if I look at just one aspect, okay, you know, he's lazy or he gets angry, he's short-tempered. But there are 9 other things which are good at it, you know. In my anger, I forget that. So love is for me accepting the person as whole, with his flaws and negativity, accepting as a whole, not just focusing on one thing. Oh, he's lazy, he's short-tempered, you know. It's a whole package, you know. For me, that is love. You know, if you could do that, accept that, for me, it's that.
Ankit?
For me, love is the nature of my own self with me. I think I need to fall in love with myself first before I'm able to express that love with somebody else. In a simple understanding, it is like when you put milk on fire and then when it boils out and it flows out, right? So it is the love which is expressed in the world needs to be my additional love. So the milk itself is complete within it, and because it flows out, it is sharing the milk with others. So then my love for myself is complete, irrespective of things, situations, and person. And it is an expression of that overwhelming joy that I'm able to share with somebody else. When I'm able to share it with somebody else, as Umang rightly pointed out, the starting point may be a physical attraction or somebody's way of speaking or somebody's way of writing or any other things. But I think over a period of time, these boundaries get blurred out, and you are able to accept, accommodate, include the whole personality of that person in a complete unit. So that that union, that the yoga, that Advaita is something I call it as love. But it always starts from within.
Hi. Oh my God. Umang, Ankit, you guys just made me melt within. I don't know. I mean, I'm so happy right now. Vikrant, please
Sushruta, what is your
pay
definition?
attention. shut up, listen to me first. You always, like, when I'm talking, you will not stop cutting me. Shut up. So Vikrant, I think you need to take a lesson from her and understand what love can look like in so many ways and forms, and so that will help you write the romantic aspects of your novels, you know.
No, but like, see, for me, love is simple. So
Love is
I
Sujata,
met
by
my
the way,
wife.
guys.
Yeah, yeah. So I met my wife and got married to her for the first. Like, I met her for the first time during the pandemic and got married to her during the pandemic itself. For me, love is simple. Uh, so I had, before this, I had gone through the reason why I am into this mental health thing, why I advocate mental health awareness and mental health in general, is because I went through something in my life, and for a long while I was I felt lonely, and like, it was a dark period in my life. And I never I had this thing in my mind that I would never find love because of this darkness that was part of my life. Okay. And but I had this thing ki my mom and dad are gonna search for someone for me, but I need that person to know the truth about me, that there is this darkness. I didn't want to start, and I very well knew that if I disclose it to this person, that there is a very good chance that that person might not want to pursue anything further with me. So, but here's the thing. My wife Sujata, initially she was also reluctant to get married. The only and she is she has said this to me, that the first time before we met itself, that she was gonna say no. Then we met, then, and I explained to her that these things have happened in my past life with me, and for those reasons there was this darkness in my life, and I went through some mental health issues because of that. And despite those things, I don't know why, like, she said yes to me. And when I asked her that, no, I have these many flaws, why did you say yes? And she's like, you were honest with me when you didn't need to be honest with me, and that made you brought honesty into this relationship, and I respected you for that. And with that foundation of honesty and respect in my life, I fell in love with you. So for me, it's simple. The person you can be honest to, the person you can respect, doesn't matter the gender. That's love.
Okay, I'm gonna give a few different understandings of love that I have experienced and I have seen firsthand, or probably secondhand. So I'm gonna talk about this guy best friend of mine. He is in an open gay relationship, and oh my god, I will never forget the day he came out to me. We were in college, we were sitting at the katta, which was technically like the bike parking spot, and we were just sitting over there and we were just chilling and chit chatting, kuch to faltugiri hum log ka chalu tha. And then he was like, so sunna. I'm like, ha bol na. I think I'm gay. I'm like, oh wow, thanks. I mean, that's so cool that you chose to tell me this. I am so honored by the fact that you were able to, tell me this, and you found that kind of faith, trust, and confidence by which you were able to tell me this. And then I secretly led him on. I'm like, damn it. Now I don't stand a chance. I had like a crush on you, and now I don't stand a chance at all. And up to date, we laugh about this like a lot. And I keep telling him, listen, if if you have an interest in girls, if at all ever that happens, I don't think it will happen, but I'm just like glimmer of hope. I'm right here, I'm like right here. And we keep bloody laughing our heads off about that. And I have seen his relationship journey, and it's just like, talking to your best friend about relationship issues, and we have like this whole gossip zone that goes on, and we have like this whole, we share our emotions with equal passion and intensity when it comes to a lot of topics, a lot of different things, and our conversations are just like, oh my god. And I'm just like thankful to the universe, God, whoever is there that exists out there, for making this person enter my life. I mean, the kind of bond that I was able to develop and share with this person, that's love. Now, another way of looking at love is, I used to counsel a person who identified as gay, and this person was having relationship issues, and I had a few sessions with this person, and the way this person evolved, like after each and every session, I was just like, I was mesmerized by the evolution. I mean, the perspectives that he was able to take on towards the issues that he was facing, I was just blown away. I mean, like the most beautiful metamorphosis I saw over there. And that to me is love. That glowing feeling from within when I see my clients making stunning progress, and they're able to go far beyond, and then they reach a point where they don't need me. So that's like a break-even point for me. But I'm just so happy that they don't need me anymore. And then the third part is, so my gal bestie, I love her to bits. A reason that made me love her to bits even more is that she finally decided that it's about time that she tried to look at me from a different perspective, because she had certain, set understandings about things. And she came to a point wherein she decided to try and look at things differently. And she did. And the moment she revealed that, I completely understand, I get it, I was so overwhelmed by emotion. I literally legit cried in front of her for like solid 15 to 20 minutes. And that moment was when I felt like a lot of love. So these three experiences are, are something that, have made me understand a lot more of what love means to me. So I don't have a set definition or a set understanding of love. It keeps evolving as I come across newer people, I interact with newer people, and I get a lot more information. So that's what's love for me, at least.
That was so lovely, but just to make the conversation a little more light, because this needs to be a fun conversation. I remember one thing Umang shared many years ago. Maybe Umang still has that line. And that is, if somebody asks Umang, do you have place? And Umang replied, yes, in my heart.
Hey.
But Ankit, there is a twist. The sad part is there is a twist to it. Now, if I say I have a place in my, I have a place in my heart, the new generation says, but I want a place in your ass,
Okay, so this video is officially demonetized.
But thanks for remembering that.
We always remember things shared by our inspirations.
Thank you, Ankit.
So let's talk about like art in general. Let's talk about the art side, because this won't be the AMP without the art and the mind, right? So let's talk about growing up. What characters even in books or in movies or anything, what characters like you most related to? What was that one character that you just related? Because everyone has that character, one character that they just relate to. Like, I am so this and this. Like for me, I relate to Chandler the most.
Yeah, Ankit, go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of a role models. I just unfortunately don't roll with any of the models. But if I talk about
ladies and gentlemen and everybody else out there on the community, we have Ankit Guptani, people. OMG. He is slaying it. Next level slay happening over here. Give him a bow, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. Oh my God, slaying and how?
So I don't have
Now
role
that we are
models,
done with that.
unfortunately, but what I have is inspiration, and there's not one, there are many. Uh, if I start like historically or mythologically, of course, it would be Krishna, followed by Gandhi. I am deeply touched with the life of Gandhi, including his shortcomings. After that, there are so many queer, leaders like Umang, like Pallav, and then many others like them. I think I have learned so much from them. And even if I have not learned from few of them, they're just being there before me and making the path in which I can come out itself is so powerful. I always say this one thing, and whenever I give a talk to college students, and on many, if I'm talking to a new being within the community at 15, 16, 19 year olds, I always say that I was able to come out because people within the community before me uh, had courage to come out. And when they were in the time of coming out, they would have needed much, much more courage than the amount of courage I needed. The amount of courage I needed less for the reason Umang had found that much more courage when he was coming out. Because Umang found that courage, Ankit could come out. And because Ankit found that courage, I think somebody else who is in 15, 16, 19 right now will find that courage to come out. So it heads off to the people who came out and then made the conversation regular. From Krishna to Gandhi, like Gandhi had a habit of writing even all the mistakes he did. Like I'll give an example. In his autobiography, My Experiment with the Truth, Satya ke Saath Mere Prayog, I read it in Gujarati when I was a kid. And in the starting pages itself, he writes this that I got a scholarship in a Saurashtra university. Now, because I got a scholarship in the Saurashtra University, none of my readers or the future people should consider or even think for a second that I'm paraphrasing it, of course, but should not think or give you an impression that I was very scholarly. That's why I got the scholarship. Let me tell you the truth. There was a reserved quota for the Saurashtra people to get the scholarship within this university. And there are hardly any people who used to apply for the scholarship. And that's why I was by default going to get it. And I got it. Now, if Gandhi would have not wrote that, we would have just thought that, yeah, I mean, he was a scholar and that's why he got that scholarship. So I think that magnifying your own shortcomings and trying to improving it at the same time, making it public takes it to a different level, especially in a time when we all want to portray ourselves the best version of ourselves in front of others in the time of social media, which creates FOMO and a feeling of that vacuum that he's able to go out to the foreign trips every time, or look at this person able to have this and that. Uh, then we are not seeing that just to get that one selfie, how many thousands of selfie that person has went through and which kind of filters and edit tools that person have used, right? So I think accepting yourself completely, understanding your shortcomings, and to the level to express it to the world as well. That look, I am not perfect, though you call me Mahatma. I think that is a different level. So I'm truly inspired from Gandhi as well in that sense.
Wow. Umang?
That's me. See, when growing up, my role models, I think Gandhi was one of my role models. But in my teenage and when I was struggling with my sexuality, I used to be influenced by Shobha De a lot. She used to write very candidly about gay people, about
Right.
homosexuality. There was Ashok Rao Kavi, as Ankit said, it was difficult for Ashok Rao Kavi, Sridhar Rangai, and Sohail Abbasi to come out. And because they come out and they started Humsafar and Bombay Dost, and I could go there, I could come out and start Gay Bombay. So yes, Ankit is absolutely right. It was difficult for them, for Ashok Rao Kavi and other people. So my role model is honestly Shobha De, because she used to write so candidly about homosexuality. And when I was just 18, she really helped me unknowingly. So she and Ashok Rao Kavi was writing a book together. So I mustered the courage to take her number from midday and I called her up. And I was 18 years old and she was a huge celebrity, and I told that I want Ashok Rao Kavi's number. And she gave me the number. And I also asked her, is your cousin Kaudam Radaksha gay? And he said, she said, why don't you check with him, you know? But because she gave the number, I could call up Ashok Rao Kavi, and that's my journey started, you know. So there were people who were open-minded like Shobha De, you know, I think, yeah.
Wow, that's just absolutely stunning. I mean, stunning, stunning, stunning. I, on the other hand, however, never really had a role model. There was no one who was consistent. I mean, if I were to look at my journey through childhood up until now, I never really had this opportunity or this chance to look up to a person, because I somehow have this understanding that every person is so unique in themselves that I get to learn something new and something different from each and every person that touches my life, comes into my life, goes out of my life, teaches me lessons, and there are a lot of things. So the usually when people ask me this question, who's your role model, I freeze and I go blank. I'm like, what do I say over here now? Because back then I didn't have like a response. I didn't know what to say. That okay, role model matlab kya? What do I exactly say? And I would literally be, it would as if be like somebody shot me with a stun gun or something, and I have absolutely nothing to say. But as I grew up, I realized that no, it's okay if you don't have a particular role model, and if you don't really look up to people in the intentional, in the way that role models perhaps were intended to be. But yeah, I mean, literally every person that has come in and left my life, they have taught me so many things. They have helped me see so many things differently, understand so many things differently, and I guess that's also a reason why I came into the mental health professional, to, you know, get that entire understanding together and to help people figure themselves out as well, because it is not easy to figure yourself out. I mean, it's so difficult to be able to truly understand who you are, what's your identity, and all of that. And it's absolute. It can be a hot mess situation, because even though you're growing up, there is modernization happening on one end, but there's a lot of ancientness at the other end also, and you get that and you get this also, but there's like sort of a struggle between the two, and you lose yourself in the process, like in looking at it from one aspect. And there's just so much that's going on which may tend to overwhelm you, and all of that kind of sort of tends to, you know, okay, I don't know who I am, I don't know what's my identity, I don't know if I like men, women, or if I don't like them at all. I really don't know. So, you know, it kind of sort of like this whole understanding of why I did not have role models per se kind of sort of helps me, you know, help people identify their individual selves. So in a way that they identify their role model within themselves, if that's right, I guess. Yeah.
So let's talk about, we talked about ancient, like Sushmita mentioned something about ancient India as well in her rant. So let's talk a little about that. Okay, so India during the ancient times was actually quite open about, you know, the existence of homosexuality. If you look at, you know, the Kama Sutra itself, it alludes to homosexuality being prevalent and accepted during that time. So like how did we get here? Like how did we get from, you know, a country or nation that, you know, accepted you know, the homosexuality, to something that, you know, that we have come to a place where, you know, we have to fight for, you know, gay rights in itself now. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah,
what has
Ankit,
went
go
wrong?
ahead.
Well, if we talk about the history of India from the queer perspective, we see overwhelming references to queer gender identities and expressions and orientation in various scriptures. There are references to queer identities in a text like Charaka Samhita, Shushruta Samhita, Narada Smriti, Sanskrit Shabda Kalpadruma. I've done a research on the subject for over 2 years, and I have noted down over 76 Sanskrit terminologies. 76 Sanskrit terminologies, which talks about diverse gender identities, orientation, expressions, and behaviors. How many do we have it in English? LGBTQIA plus, and every 2 years we add one more. Wherein centuries ago, our culture heritage have not only acknowledged, but also given part in a quote unquote religious, societal law books and in medical text of those times. As you rightly mentioned, the examples of Kama Sutras, uh, where of course there is in a Kama Sutra, there is a complete dedicated chapter on diverse gender identities and expression and practices. Over 20% of our ancient sculptures, whether it's the temple walls and all, you can find some or another form of erotica, which is queer, portrayed on the temple walls. To the extent in art and the cultural history, whether within songs or the music or within the drawings and things like that, you will find overwhelming queer narrative. Was all of this indicating towards acceptance or not is something debatable, but it did not exist, and it is a Western concept, is something completely bogus. So how the hate came to India is your question. So let's understand one thing, that we had the acknowledgement of a queer identities. It was not absolute mainstream. At least I'm talking from the facts point of view. So everybody can have the different narrative. I'm not able to find a proof wherein I can say it is a mainstream, but it was acknowledged as a part of a society, just like other dimensions and way of living in the society. But when other invaders ruled us and they came in with their way of understanding, their worldview, their religion, their belief system, which put down this overwhelming acknowledging society, which acknowledged the queerness to something very minimal. And criminalization of queerness happens by the British, purely by the British, when they brought in the law like IPC 377. Nowhere before that in a history of India of centuries, we were considered as criminals. The criminalization of British is the colonial gift to not just to India, but to so many countries, unfortunately.
Yeah. Wow, that was some education. Thank you so much, Ankit. Yes, Umang.
Well, honestly, I don't have much knowledge about the history, but I think before British, we all were very open-minded. There was Shikhandi, there were people who had, India had a culture of a king having so many wives and, accepting kinnar and all that. I think there in the mythology and history. So as far as I know, it is, I think, the British which kind of brainwashed us, and made these segregations. And we were very rich culturally. We were a culture of
Exactly.
accepting a lot of people. And yes, Ankit is right. I think British kind of brainwashed us, and it stayed with us. And they changed, but it stayed with us. That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, wow. Like processing. I'm going to be processing this entire conversation. I am going to, look back at this conversation over and over again, because being a mental health professional myself, it is my responsibility to make sure that I am up to date with the information that is appropriate and correct and true to my own knowledge about the LGBTQIA plus community. And this really, I mean, having this conversation with you guys, Ankit, Umang, has really helped a lot. It helps me connect even more to the people who belong to the community. It helps me understand appropriate, ways to communicate with people from the community. It also helps me realize that, there is just so much more than the labels. There is so much more than just the labels. And it's, people's mindsets need to perhaps kind of sort of I don't know. I'm not able to find the appropriate word over here. I want to say evolve, but I'm not so sure if saying evolve would be correct or not, considering that, what we had as a rich heritage and culture back then was so much more evolved than where we seem to be at right now in terms of understanding of certain things. But I definitely thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, Ankit and Umang. I'm so glad that you guys agreed to do this with us. I am warmed completely. I am so thankful that you were able to spare your precious time and come and join us on this conversation. And we want to set this ball rolling. We want to continue to have beautiful and honest conversations about pride, about the LGBTQIA plus community, and we want to celebrate every person for who they are and the way they are, because मेरी तरफ से तो unconditional positive regard है भाई. So thank you so much, Ankit and Umang, for being here with us today. Vikrant, would you like to say something?
Yes. Like, I like, for the first time in my life, I think I'm like short of words today. But at the end, it's like, this is love. Okay, this is what we're talking about, is the right to love, and everyone has to have that right. Otherwise, like, why are we even human in that case? So like, with that, I just say that, all of the darkness, all of the negativity that people bring into this world is just it's just meaningless when you talk about love. So with that, I'm like, we love you guys, and we love that you're here, and we love that we love that people like you are out there. We just love that. More than that, I cannot say. And on that note, I think we should end this conversation, because like, I am getting so on that note, I think we should end this conversation. To our subscribers, all I can hope for is you are happy that you find that person that you love, and just all round mental health in general. Like, if you want to talk to someone, you can talk to Sushrita. She's a mental health professional. If you just want to talk to someone, you can always talk to me. I am not a mental health professional, but I am always willing to listen. Like, on that note, I think, like, guys, do you wanna put in your final words?
Yeah.
Umang, you wanna go ahead?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for giving us an opportunity, giving me to talk. So in this way, you are also helping us to bring awareness, And I like the whole casual approach. You're being so chirpy, Sushrita, and you also, bringing a lot of fun elements to create a serious topic in a fun way. So not to even bombard somebody, but make it casually, So thanks for doing this for the community. It's going to bring a lot of awareness, Thank you.
Ankit?
Thank you so much for this opportunity indeed. And as Umang rightly pointed out, that we have made a serious topic in a very casual way. I like your approach, the way we have conducted this conversation. And I hope that your listeners will find an inspiration within our four persons conversation, and they will talk about it with others as well. So with that, thank you so much for having me. And if anybody want to reach out to me personally, my socials are Citizen Ankit, CITIZENANKIT on all socials. Feel free to reach out to me. Check out Umang's initiative, Hugging Club of India, which is doing phenomenal job in the area of mental health. And you should definitely connect with him. And yes, glad and thank you for listening to this podcast and listening to us. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you.
And on that note, Sushrita, I think you should take it away.
Okay. On that note, we are the AM.